Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to learn about the respiratory system, the system that is responsible for the exchange of gases between the body and the environment, that is called respiratory system. Respiration is the inhalation of oxygen and exhalation of carbon dioxide by the body. Um, this respiration is divided into three main types. Number one, the external respiration. External respiration is the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the lungs and capillaries. The exchange of gases between the lungs and capillaries as the gases reaches the alveoli of the lungs. Actually, this is the exchange of gases between the capillaries and the alveoli. So when it reaches the alveoli, it diffuses into capillaries. It diffuses into the capillaries. So this diffusion of oxygen into the capillaries and the diffusion of carbon dioxide from the capillaries into the alveoli, that is called external respiration. Number two, internal respiration. Internal respiration is the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the capillaries and the tissues. Actually, this is the exchange of gases between the blood vessels and the interstitial spaces. So when the oxygen reaches the end capillaries, after the systemic circulation, it reaches the capillaries. These capillaries are having slits through which the oxygen or the plasma leak out into the interstitial spaces, and the carbon dioxide leaks into the capillaries through diffusion. This diffusion of carbon dioxide and oxygen between the interstitial spaces and the capillaries are what we call the internal respiration. Number three is the cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is generally considered as the production of energy. So during the production of energy, the fuel is consumed. Actually, this is the consumption of oxygen and the production of carbon dioxide during a reaction. When the oxygen diffuses from the interstitial spaces into a specific cell. Inside the cell, there must be various types of fluids. There must be various types of fuels, and for example, the basic fuel of the body, that is the glucose unit. It combines with the glucose, the oxygen combines with the glucose and leads to the production of carbon dioxide and energy. So this consumption of oxygen and the production of carbon dioxide, that is what we call cellular respiration. They take place inside the a specific cell. Functions of respiratory system. As we know that the basic function of respiratory system is the respiration or breathing or the inhalation or exhalation. But there are so many other functions of respiratory system beside the respiration. As you can see, the first one is production of sound. As we know that the upper respiratory tract consists of the vocal box or the voice box, or larynx, that is called larynx. That voice box is responsible for the production of sounds. That voice box is responsible for the production of sound. That is why we can say that the respiratory system is responsible for the production of sound also. We talk, we conversate, we produce various types of voices, in which the main organ that is responsible is the voice box, and that is the part of the respiratory system. So the respiratory system produces sounds also. The respiratory system is also responsible for the filtration of air. Now, how this is responsible for the filtration of air? As we inhale the air with the help of upper respiratory tract, with the help of nose. When we inhale the air with the help of nose, the nasal cavity and the upper respiratory tract consist of so many organs, so many tissues which filter the air, which do not allow the dusty air, which do not allow the nasty air to goes into the lower respiratory tract. The lower respiratory tract also consists of certain types of cells and tissues which do not allow the dirty air, dusty air to reach the alveoli. Eventually, to the alveoli, the filtered air reaches. So, all the respiratory tract is responsible for the filtration of air, which especially the nasal cavity is responsible. Number three, to maintain the pH. It also maintains the acidity and basicity of the body or the body fluid. How it maintains the pH? As we know that during the production of energy, the carbon dioxide is produced inside the body, and that carbon dioxide is acidic in nature. That increase the acidity of the body, that decrease the pH of the body. So this increase in acidity of the body can lead to certain unwanted reactions inside the body, or unwanted changes inside the body. So to avoid those unwanted changes inside the body, uh, the respiratory system exhale this carbon dioxide. The respiratory system exhale that carbon dioxide, and some of the carbon dioxide can also excrete out of the body with the help of kidney. So this exhalation of carbon dioxide also maintain the pH of the body. Beside the carbon dioxide, there are so many other components also which are also responsible for the maintenance of pH. But the prominent one is carbon dioxide. That's why I gave an example of carbon dioxide. It also maintains the heat of the body. It also maintains the heat of the body. How it maintains the heat of the body? The during hot weather, you can feel that during hot weather, very hot air comes from the lungs. Uh, you can feel the hot air which comes from the lungs during exhalation of air. Why the hot air comes up out of the body? Because inside the body temperature should not exceed the 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. So this if the body temperature is increased about the 37 degrees C or 98.6 degree Fahrenheit, this extra temperature is evacuated with the help of exhaled air from the lungs, and that exhaled air is hot in nature, that maintain the heat inside the body, that maintain the heat. The heat is also maintained with the help of skin, but this is lungs is also responsible for the maintenance of heat inside the body. The respiratory system is also responsible for the maintenance of water inside the body. How the respiratory system is responsible for the maintenance of water? We can feel that or we can realize that when we exhale the air, above a tissue paper, we can see the water vapors on the tissue paper. These water vapors are actually uh, large in amount, large in quantity during that condition when our body contains large amount of water. And when our body contains small amount of water, then the exhale air contains small amount of water vapor. So this depends upon the presence or the quantity of water inside the body. If the quantity of water inside the body is large in amount, then large amount of water vapors is exhaled during the respiration, and that water vapor maintain the balance of the body. That water vapor maintain the balance of the body, the balance of water inside the body actually. So the it also carry out the excretion. Actually, the excretion is the basic function of the kidney. The water maintenance is also the basic function of the kidney, and excretion is also a basic function of the kidney. But some of the excretion can also take place with the help of skin. Some of the excretion can also take place with the help of hairs. Some of the excretion can also take place with the help of respiratory system. Many other systems are also responsible for the excretion, but the respiratory system or the lungs are also responsible for the excretion of some chemicals, some compounds, some fluid from the body. Um, for example, the prominent one is the alcohol, the excretion of alcohol to maintain the balance inside the body. The alcohol is excreted from the body when somebody consume the alcohol. You can feel the smell of the alcohol from the mouth of that person. After a while, after consuming alcohol, you can feel the smell of alcohol, and that smell of alcohol which you can feel from his mouth, that is actually the excretion of alcohol through the mouth, through the lungs, from the lungs to the mouth. That is excretion of alcohol. The next one is to carry out circulation. How the circulation, it maintain the circulation or carry out the circulation. The circulation is the basic function of heart actually carry out the circulation, which is the pumping organ, and which is having the myocardium for the contraction and relaxation. So but we can see that our respiratory system also consists of intercostal muscles in the ribs and the phrenic muscle in the diaphragm. So the phrenic muscle in the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles of the rib cage, when we inhale the air or when we exhale the air, these muscles contract and relax. These change the position or change the structure of the diaphragm and intercostal muscle, diaphragm and the ribs. That change in position of the ribs and diaphragm leads to the modification of veins and arteries all around the rib cage and the diaphragm. So during the contraction of the rib cage, or during the relaxation of the rib cage, during the contraction of the diaphragm and relaxation of the diaphragm, the adjacent capillaries, the adjacent blood vessels are affected. Those lead to the passage of blood through the veins, especially because the vein consists of the wall which maintain one-sided flow, which only allow one-sided flow. So during contraction, the blood is forwarded from one side to another side inside the blood, inside the vein. So that leads to the maintenance of circulation of the body, that lead to circulation of blood to the veins, to the inferior vena cava. So the next one is the to performs the smell detection. The respiratory system is also responsible for the detection of smell. How this is responsible for the detection of smell? We can see that the nasal cavity consists of certain types of receptors, some types of sense organs. The sense detecting tissue, that is the olfactory cells, are there inside the nasal cavity. Inside the rope of the nasal cavity, olfactory cells are there, which is responsible for the detection of smell. That is part of upper respiratory tract, so that is part of respiratory system. So respiratory system is responsible for the detection of smell also. The next one is respiratory tract is divided into two main parts. Now, the upper respiratory tract and the lower respiratory tract. The upper respiratory tract starts from the nose and end on the larynx. As we can see in the diagram, this individual is having the respiratory tract which starts from the nose and ends on the alveoli of the lungs. So from the nose to the larynx, this is the first part of the respiratory system, that is called upper respiratory tract. And from the trachea, below the larynx, the trachea, start from the trachea to the alveoli, that is the lower respiratory tract. The upper respiratory tract start from the nose and ends on the larynx, while the lower respiratory tract start from the trachea and ends on the alveoli. So the pathway between the nose and the larynx, the pathway from the nose and larynx, there is the upper respiratory tract, and the pathway from the trachea to the alveoli, that is the lower respiratory tract. The first part of the upper respiratory tract, that is the nasal cavity. The nasal cavity, which you can see in the diagram, consists of the large number of various organs. We can see over here that the first part of the nasal cavity is the nose, is the vestibule of the nose, and there are two vestibules or two holes which lead to the nasal cavity, this is the nasal cavity, and this is the vestibule. These two vestibules lead to nasal cavity, but these in between these two vestibule uh, there is a diaphragm, there is a septum made up of diaphragm. So that system leads to the septum leads to the production of two nasal cavities or two vestibule. So these two vestibule lead to the two nasal cavities, and these nasal cavities consist of the bony structure. These are the bony structure which are called turbinates or concha. This is the superior concha or superior turbinate. This is the middle concha or middle turbinate, and this is the inferior concha or inferior turbinate. These turbinates consist of the mucous membrane above this, and this concha is actually, when we inhale the air with the help of vestibule, this air coincide with these concha, and that leads to the filtration of air. The dust particle are retained on these concha. The dust particle are retained on the mucous membrane above this concha, and that air which go through these concha become hot, also become filtered and hot, because this concha is having the high temperature, which lead to the to increase of temperature of this inhaled air. So this to become the cold air become hot by passing through the concha or passing through the turbinates. The cold air become hot, the dusty air become filtered. Some of the filtration also take place onward, but the maximum of the filtration, majority of the filtration of the respiratory tract take place within these concha, because this air will coincide with the walls of these bony structure or concha. The upper the superior turbinates having above the superior turbinate, you can see the olfactory region. The olfactory region or olfactory cells, which are responsible for the detection of smell. So these three pathways leads to the dorsal part of the nasal cavity, dorsal part of the nasal cavity. That is called quena. That is called quena. Choana, quena. So that quena leads to the nasopharynx, to the part of the pharynx that is called nasopharynx. So this is the first part of the nasal. This is the first part of the upper respiratory tract, the nasal cavity, which leads to the pharynx. Um, Now you can see that the nasal cavity leads to the pharynx. The oral cavity can also lead to the pharynx. We can also inhale the air with the help of oral cavity. If there is some problem, some issue with the nasal cavity, when the nasal cavity is blocked, then we can inhale the air with the help of oral cavity. Because the oral cavity also leads to the pharynx. So the when the air reaches this area that is called pharynx, the pharynx consists of three main parts. One is the nasopharynx, the other is the oropharynx, and third one is the laryngopharynx. The nasopharynx is that part of the pharynx which is which is adjacent with the nasal cavity, Actually, the pharynx is also called the throat. That is the part of respiratory tract and alimentary canal. Both of these uh, contribute. Both of these can make the um, pharynx. The pharynx is the part of the respiratory system as well as the digestive system. The respiratory system as well as the digestive system, the respiratory tract as well as the alimentary canal. So the first part of the pharynx is the nasopharynx, that is adjacent with the nasal cavity. The second part of the pharynx, that is called oropharynx, that is adjacent with the oral cavity. And the third part of the pharynx, that is laryngopharynx, that is adjacent or close to the larynx. The pharynx actually start at the part of respiratory tract and element behind the mouth and nasal cavity, behind the mouth and nasal cavity, and above the esophagus and the larynx. This is the larynx and this is the esophagus. So above the esophagus and above the larynx, the pharynx is there. Behind the oral cavity and behind the nasal cavity, the pharynx is there. This is the location of pharynx. The nasopharynx also consists of, you can see over here, um, a notch-like structure that is actually a hole that leads to the ear, that leads to the middle ear, that is called eustachian tube. This eustachian tube leads to the middle ear, and this maintain the pressure inside the middle ear, the pressure of air inside the middle ear. So these are the three main portions of the pharynx. Next one is larynx. The larynx is commonly called as the voice box. That is an organ on the top of the neck involved in the breathing, producing sound and protecting the trachea against the food aspiration. That is various types of the larynx, but various functions of the larynx. The larynx consists of the following parts. Number one, epiglottis, the false vocal cord, or vestibular vocal cord, or the true vocal cord, or true vocal fold. The rhinoglottitis, the thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, and arytenoid cartilage. These are the various parts of the larynx, and the larynx is also called the voice box. This larynx consists of various structure, which we are going to learn in the next slide. This is just a simulated diagram of the voice box, in which you can see that this is the frontal side. This is the frontal side of the voice box, and this is the this one is the dorsal side of the voice box. This is the dorsal side, and this is the frontal side. The frontal side of the voice box or larynx consists of cartilage that is called thyroid cartilage. That is the largest cartilage. Actually, the voice box consists of, or the larynx consists of, the majority of larynx is made up of cartilages. So you can see that the largest cartilage over here in the larynx or in the voice box is the thyroid cartilage. This is the thyroid cartilage, which is on the frontal side of the voice box. On the lower side of the thyroid cartilage, the cricoid cartilage is there. This is the cricoid cartilage. And on the dorsal side of the thyroid cartilage, or dorsal side of the voice box, what is present? The arytenoid cartilage is there. Two arytenoid cartilages are there. There are three main cartilages inside the voice box, inside the larynx: the thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, and arytenoid cartilage. The thyroid cartilage is adjacent. Above the thyroid cartilage, thyroid gland is there. This is the butterfly shaped bone. That is the largest. This is the butterfly shaped cartilage, and that is the largest cartilage of the larynx. That is also called the Adam's apple. That is also called the Adam's apple, which you can see, which you can feel, you can see in your throat, you can see in your neck or your throat. So the next one is the cricoid cartilage. Cricoid cartilage is the name derived from the cricoid. Cricoid mean circular. Cricoid mean complete circle. So this cartilage is the only cartilage inside the respiratory tract which is circular in shape. Which is circular in shape. This is the only cartilage which is circular in shape. That is this is called cricoid cartilage. And these two cartilages are either erythenide cartilage. Erythenide is the word derived from the Greek word um, which mean which means scoop, which mean large spoon, which means scoop, which mean a large scoop or spoon. So these are two in number, and these are also the part of the vocal box or voice box. You can also see that the voice box also consists of the vocal fold. These are actually the vocal fold, which are also called the vocal cords, or which are also called the vocal ligament. These are called the vocal cord, vocal fold, or vocal ligament. This is responsible for the production of sound. This vocal cord is responsible for the production of sound, and when the air goes or flows through these vocal fold, it leads to the production of sound. The gap between these vocal fold is called rhyma glottis. Rhyma glottis is the gap between these folds, between these vocal cord. Above this fold, another fold through that is called false vocal cord, that is present above this one, but that is not simulated in this diagram. In the next diagram, in this diagram, we can also see the red colored. These are muscles which this muscle connect the thyroid cartilage with this cartilage, and this connect this cartilage with this cartilage, in which the name assume that erythenide muscle will connect the cricoid cartilage with erythenide cartilage. The thyroerythenide muscle will connect the thyroid cartilage with erythenide cartilage, and the intererythenide muscle is the muscle which connect to erythenide cartilage. Very simple. And the cricothyroid muscle which connect the thyroid cartilage with the cricoid cartilage. In the next diagram, in this diagram, it show that it depicts the true diagram of the vocal box or voice box or the larynx. In this larynx, you can see this bone. This is called hyoid bone. Hyoid bone. This is not the part of the larynx, but that is given below this hyoid bone, with which the tongue is connected. The base of the tongue is connected. This is hyoid bone. Below this hyoid bone, the larynx starts. So you can see over here that below this hyoid bone there is this one. This is the epiglottis. This is the epiglottis, or this is the epiglottis. This epiglottis is a lid-like structure which is present above the glottis, which is present above the larynx. The lid-like structure which do not allow the passage of food, which do not allow the passage of bolus, which closes the larynx during the swallowing of food. That is called the leaf-like structure. That is called epiglottis. We will learn about the prominent structure, and you can see butterfly shaped bone over here, the prominent structure, that is called thyroid cartilage. The next one is cricoid cartilage. This is cricoid cartilage. This is the frontal view, and this is the dorsal view. You can see over here that on the frontal view there is also complete, and on the dorsal side it is also complete. So this is complete ring shaped structure. That is why this is called cricoid cartilage, or ring, complete ring. or a complete circle. The below the cricoid cartilage, the trachea start, and trachea consists of semicircular cartilages. You can see over here that these are the tracheal cartilage are semicircular, not complete circle, not complete ring. But focus on the voice box. Voice box start from this hyoid bone and ends on the cricoid cartilage. In this larynx, you can see that epiglottis is there, the thyroid cartilage is there, the cricoid cartilage is there, and on the dorsal side you can see that the arytenoid cartilage is there. This is arytenoid cartilage. And the arytenoid cartilage you cannot see over here on the frontal side, the arytenoid cartilage, because the arytenoid cartilage is present on the dorsal side of the larynx, while the cricoid cartilage is present on dorsal as well as on the frontal side, while the thyroid cartilage is present on the frontal side. This glottis is also made up of cartilage. This is also made up of cartilage. This is called epiglottis that covers the larynx. That covers especially inside the during the swallowing of bolus. So the next one, in this diagram you can see that this is the thyroid cartilage. This one is thyroid cartilage on the frontal and dorsal side. This ring shaped structure you can see over here, this is cricoid cartilage, and this is arytenoid cartilage. This one is arytenoid cartilage. You can see over here that this long bone is arytenoid. There is also this long cartilage is arytenoid cartilage, but this also contains some other cartilage that is called corniculate cartilage and some other cartilage, but the prominent ones are the thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, and arytenoid cartilage. And the epiglottis, this is also made up of cartilage. So you can see below the epiglottis a membrane is there. This membrane, the first membrane below the epiglottis, that is the false vocal cord. This is the false vocal cord. You can call it the false vocal cord, and this is also called vestibular fold or false vocal cord, false vocal fold or vestibular fold. This is the first membrane. Which have some role in the production of sound, but this is not actually responsible for the production of sound, because this is not a true fold, a true vocal fold. This is actually false vocal fold below, which comes below this glottis, which is connected on one side with the cricoid cartilage, and on the other side with this cartilage. Okay, the next one is this one, the true vocal fold, which is present below the false vocal fold or false vocal cord. This is the true vocal cord. This is also called vocal ligament. This is also called vocal cord. This is also called vocal fold. There are many names of this vocal cord. So this vocal cord extends from from thyroid cartilage to the cricoid cartilage. This is dorsally connected. This is dorsally connected with the cricoid cartilage, and ventrally this is connected with the thyroid cartilage. And this is responsible for production of sound. Between these vocal fold there is a slit, the gap. This gap or slit is called rhymaglotides. This fold or slit is called rhymaglotides, and this fold or slit leads to the trachea. This leads to the trachea. Okay, this was all about the respiratory system, or the upper part of respiratory system, upper respiratory tract.